Welcome everybody to Blerdlines. This is your man Cam. With me as always is
the other Cam, aka Rob, aka the Annoyed.
as well as
Ayo, it's Josh. Nothing special today.
And we are here back. We all watched we're all back. We watched Marvel's Thunderbolts, and it's been out for about a week, blah, 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 blah. You know, some fanfare because Sinners is still making a lot of money, which is good. But anyways, you know, quick backstory is basically all the B-level semi-villains, anti-hero peoples in the Marvel Universe thrown together into a movie carried by Florence Pugh because, you know, she's cool and everyone like wants to see her do stuff. The early hype for this movie was kind of low just because it was kind of like, okay, do we need this movie? Why are we getting it? That kind of a thing. So I think expectations were very, very low. I like Florence Pugh just as her character because it's just hella fun every time she shows up. Even in lackluster movies like Black Widow, she was the funnest part of that whole thing. And her take in Hawkeye was fun. But with all that being said, you know, the movie dropped and it actually was Marvel good. That's what we're talking about. Cam said Marvel logic from Daredevil, so I'm gonna call it Marvel good. We're like the bar is low now. So now is it better than Black Widow? Yes. Is it better than Shang-Chi? Sure. But that doesn't mean it's like good. It's just like Marvel passable. What did you guys think?
I mean, I thought it was solid. On a scale of good to very good to great, it's bordering on very good, but it was good. Is it the greatest Marvel movie since Endgame? Stop it. No. I think that title still goes to No Way Home. And I think that's a high bar to pass. But it was good. You know, it was entertaining. As a friend of mine put it perfectly. It was entertaining. It did what it needed to do. It got in, it got out. Couple of quibbles here and there, but nothing that, you know, that made me go, that made me go, oh, this movie is an outrage. I don't want to, you know, and like march out of the theater. It was minor stuff, but you know,
yeah, all in all, it was good. I think it was entertaining. It got in. It took the Guardians of the Galaxy blueprint. It was like, let me just get ragtag bunch of people. They all got some history, whatever. Action scene, jokes, a little bit of heart, more comedy, back to action, a little bit more heart, back to action, a little bit more heart, and then they kind of kept it moving. And I think like after so much lackluster Marvel shit, I think this was just like kind of like a regular breath of fresh air where it's like, hey, we can remind you guys that we know how to do this still. And then I think that's what this was. It was entertaining, got you in. You didn't have to worry too much. If you didn't know any of these characters, by the end, you're like, oh, I like that guy. He's kind of cool. Or I like that person. That's cool. But it wasn't as a person that has, if you've been in the game of Marvel for the last 20 years, I don't think the time was wasted, but I don't think it was like a must see type of thing. Cam?
Yeah, like you said, it's one of those movies that attempts to make you care about characters you didn't care about, sort of like the DC's version of the Suicide Squad in a sense. Cam had put it, ragtag bunch of characters. I mean, yeah, it was like all these side B characters put together, formulated some type of narrative where we're supposed to care about the situation, which is cool. It was solidly written. Nothing that, again, if you had some skin in the game for the last 20, 30 years with Marvel, this is on par with one of those safe scripts that they put together and kind of giving everybody a little bit of shine that probably didn't get shine before or had some shine in the bigger movies. One of the things that was cool that it didn't try to be too funny. You thought it was going to be kind of over the edge. They would cut it like with Red Guardian. I think that's his name. Red Guardian's character cracking jokes. It didn't go too far.
Yeah.
It didn't get too serious. It didn't get too comical. It just kind of played it safe, which was cool. Did we need this story? No. If you go watch it, I don't think you'll be disappointed if you are a fan of Marvel stuff like this. If you're not a fan of Marvel, I wouldn't waste personally any money to go watch this. This is not something that you would need to spend money on. You could probably wait to stream this. However, in my opinion, it did give, within the realm of Marvel and the Marvel fandom, a solid Easter egg that really meant something to a bigger storyline. So I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't seen it because it's still kind of fresh out. But it's one of those Easter eggs that we should care about in the bigger scheme of things. But it's kind of like, again, we're in this same thing with Marvel where they tease you with the Easter egg to keep you intrigued. It's kind of like back in the day when you listen to a Wu-Tang album, right? And you got this snippet of this track and you're like, damn, what was that? And then like months later during the summer, you would hear that snippet of the track, you blow up and you get anticipated for what's coming out next because each previous album had like something that leads you to the next one. This is what kind of Marvel is doing again with the Easter egg. To be like, hey, summer of '96, we got this new track coming out. So with the Marvel thing, they got something cooking up for the fans. As far as the lineup, I'm not excited about everything that's coming out, obviously, because I've been in the game for a while looking at all these movies. But I do think this is one of those ones that if you go see it and you're a fan, you'll be thoroughly enjoyed. If you're one of the haters like me, you can be like, this was cool. It didn't bother me too much to be like, this is bad. It wasn't bad. I do have quibbles with it as well, but not to the point where I'm just like gonna, give it thumbs down. Saying out of 1 out of 10, I give this a 7. It was cool, So the one thing I was interested in was how they were gonna incorporate the Void and how he was gonna look. So I was curious on how that was going to be put to screen because in the comic, the Void and all that looks a certain way, and I'm like, okay, how they gonna have him look cool and not too goofy, not too CGI? I think they did a decent job with that. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I think it's one of those things where it's like it's a nice, safe Marvel movie. It's kind of what like Ant-Man 3 probably should have been. Like Ant-Man 3 tried to swing for the fences and just completely missed everything, and it was literally horrible. Where like this one was like, okay, we're not gonna do too much. We'll stay in the realm of like a Civil War, more grounded. It's a bunch of mercenaries / assassins. There was minimal CG, which was a good thing, and it kind of kept things on a ground level. And so I think that's what made it actually work. And because the expectations going in were so low, then people were kind of like more forgiving. So then when you got there, you're like, oh, this isn't that bad. Where like when we watched Captain America, it was kind of like, all right, man, like cool. Black dude versus Hulk. Thanks, guys. And I think this time it was like Thunderbolts just had it was one of those ones where you're like, all right, like Cam said, if you don't watch it, you're not missing much. But if you do, you're like, oh, this wasn't that bad. I didn't feel like it was a waste of time. Where I think when I came out of Cap, I was kind of like, we could have took out Red Hulk and just made Giancarlo the main bad guy for this whole thing. And this would have actually been like something fun to watch. But I think if nothing else, it just kind of gave you a nice right across the plate Marvel movie just to get through it. And I think that at the very least, it breaks a little bit of their curse of the last couple of movies. It's been kind of like lackluster. And same thing with the shows too. So I think that's the other thing. I think what they're really aiming for this Fantastic Four to kind of be their like, okay, now our new direction, blah, 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 blah. But as we're seeing more with every casting news of like Avengers Doomsday, it's just a bunch of fans for service at this point. We're like everyone that's ever been in a Marvel movie in the last 20 years is probably going to be in that movie for like at least 5 seconds, which do we need this? No. Are we going to get it? Probably. Are we going to like it? We'll see. So I don't think there's really much in my mind that Thunderbolts could have done worse than if, let's say, they try to be way too much something else. And I think even their tongue in cheek about even in the ending, no spoilers, but that helped even more kind of solidify it where they're like, oh, cool. We're really going to lean in onto the Guardians of the Galaxy, bunch of misfits come together for a cause, bond while they're doing the cause. And then we come out the other side and we're like, oh yeah, I like these characters. They're kind of fun. Wouldn't mind seeing them in something else and being okay with that. So I'm curious to see like what more they're going to do with these guys. The way they did Taskmaster was dirty, but at the same time, they didn't have no
dirty. That needs to be emphasized.
Yeah,
dirty.
But they had no vision for the character anyways, which sucks because it was a cool character. And so like they just was like, yo, let me just get this out. Let me just get this out the way.
Can I interrupt real quick? Wasn't there some like negative feedback of how Taskmaster was being portrayed in Black Widow, and I think the plan, well, from what I heard or read, the plan was to like kind of reboot this character and make it appropriate. I'm not sure if you guys heard anything about that.
Yeah.
What was the
I think it was
inappropriateness?
it was the whole like abused child forced to be an assassin thingy, whatever. I think that didn't go well overall. I mean, Black Widow was, there was a couple quibbles about that, and like,
Whatever.
like
Come
Black Widow
on.
itself wasn't a good movie. There was fun stuff in it, like the casting was fun. Honestly, that was the best part of the movie was the casting. Like David Harbour was hilarious. Rochelle Weisz was awesome, and Florence Pugh. But like the movie wasn't like we didn't need this movie, and we got it. We're just like, all right. But yeah, the casting for Taskmaster, like it literally would have been better if you didn't know who was in the suit and it was just a mask. And even if in that movie that person died and came back, and it could just be a suit, and someone else can inherit that thing. And I hope they do that for future things because Taskmaster is a cool ass character. They just need to do something with it. But in this movie, they're just like, we don't know what to do, so we're just gonna axe them and keep moving.
I will add too, in a couple of the trailer scenes that had Taskmaster further in the movie, which was CGI'd in when Taskmaster didn't make it past the first like 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, be like, and I mean, for a character that is as capable as Taskmaster is set up to be, I feel like it was just kind of like, we're going to shoot her in the head. All right, bye.
Basically.
Like, there was so much more to be done with that character. And for a writing medium, like comic books being adapted into film, you want options, and Taskmaster gives you a bunch of options in terms of the power set, in terms of where you can drop that character in, who she can take on, whose abilities she can learn and counter. Like, there's so many dope things that you could do with that character, and they were just like, shoot you in the head in the first act.
Yeah,
no big deal.
Yeah, and it was pretty much a waste too. That's the saddest part because, like you said, it could have been a fun, definitely could have been a fun thing they could have done. I thought the way they did Sentry and Void, like to what Cam was talking about earlier, was actually surprising. I was curious to see how they were going to do the Void, and the way they did was actually kind of cool. I thought the way they did Sentry as well, but interesting. You know, Stephen Yeun, who's Glenn from Walking Dead, was supposed to be that role. And I'm kind of glad he passed on it because I don't think it would have worked the same way.
Yeah.
I think we needed almost like a nameless white dude that we didn't know about, and then and he was fine. Like it was like cool. But I think going back to what Cam was saying about like for non-Marvel fans, like this movie's not going to win you any new fans. Like if you don't watch Marvel shit and you watch Thunderbolts, you're gonna be like, okay. There's nothing in here that's going to make you a new fan. It's more for people that have already been here that enjoy it. I'm gonna go watch it, and you're like, okay, this is cool. So like if you're not a Marvel fan or if you have Marvel fatigue, you might as well just skip it because it's not going to help. It's not going to win you over essentially.
Yeah, I think the guy who played Bob was fine. I did have one minor issue with how they transitioned him from being Sentry to the Void. Like it seemed like he was, he seemed unstable just in general, but it seemed like he went from self-esteem issues to godhood to the Void with very little in the way of transition and showing you showing you a little bit more of the internal struggle that he had that sort of got him to the point where he turned into the Void. And literally it was one scene where he was like, well, if I'm supposed to be a god, that means I don't need you. And then from that to the Void, that just seemed a little kind of like, like he was going one way. Yeah, it was quick and he was going in one direction and then all of a sudden depression. Because if you're setting up the premise to be that he develops a godlike complex because of the powers that he has, and then he's depressed 10 seconds later, and like literally from one scene to the next, like literally you jump cut and then people are standing outside looking up and there's the Void. Huh.
Well,
to me, it felt a little quick.
In contrast to that, the Void came out because the character of I'm having a blank, Bob was killed with the kill switch. That released the Void. It's kind of like the Hulk. you kill Bruce Banner, the Hulk comes out, right? So you can look at it like that, right? But it's kind of, I think the whole Void and Bob thing dealt with like mental depression and maybe I was kind of like, is he borderline schizo? But he didn't, I'm not sure. I'm not going to try to diagnose this, but I was just trying to figure out, is it a split personality thing? Is it something within him? The depression? Yeah.
There's a little bit of that. He seemed a little schizo.
So it's like, how is Marvel figuring a way to make both characters pop in a way that doesn't feel forced? Because he seemed like, dude had no memory. He seemed down in the dumps before he became this superpowered character. But at the same time, it seemed like he was motivated by a pep talk to become this omnipotent being, and then all of a sudden, like, he became this evil guy. But becoming the evil Void was the result of just killing Bob as a person. And releasing the evil when he's been trying to repress, and it finally bubbled up into the surface, and he took over. I don't like it. Doesn't, like I said, it's Marvel logic, man. Like,
I mean, no, that's a reasonable explanation. I guess I would have just done it differently. Yeah. I guess is my thought process.
Too much about the character to really give too much in-depth analysis, because it's one of those characters that I've only read in passing. Like when there was World War Hulk, Bob came on the scene and got smoked by a...
Yeah, so
there's all of that. So I'm not too familiar with his backstory, but I am familiar with the character coming on the scene and being this version of Superman, or one of the Supermen in Marvel's universe.
Yeah. And
yes. I mean, Cam, can you speak to a little bit more background as far as the character is concerned? You're officially the most Marvel knowledgeable person in the bunch now.
I thought the way they did it was actually pretty good. Because like the one thing that it probably didn't do is, like, in the comics, you get a little bit more of his narcissism in there, because he can kind of rock as a Sentry for a while. He just can't go too far. So he'll be the Sentry, basically a Superman doing all the things. And then there'll be a trigger that brings out the Void. And so it's like, as long as the trigger doesn't happen, he's fine. But then once the trigger happens, it's a wrap. And so, like, I think it was Secret Invasion with oh no, actually take it back. It was after Secret Invasion. It was a siege. So anyways, basically Sentry fights Ares, God of War, or whatever, and whatever trigger happened, that happens. He basically turns into the Void for about 2 seconds, and he rips Ares in half. And it's like this super graphic scene or whatever. And they had to and so they had to stop what they were doing and then all fight the Void to bring him back to, to calm down. The sun's going down. So I think what they missed on this one was they probably could have shown more of narcissistic Bob, of like why he thinks he should be somebody. Because right now what they show was a lot more of the depression, the kind of the listfulness, and I think that was the overall theme of the movie. It was just basically like everybody didn't have a purpose, and they're all kind of listfullest, and then finally coming together. The one purpose was like, okay, let's not die. Boom. All right, next purpose is like, let's get off this mountain. Boom. Now, next purpose is like, all right, let's not get killed. Boom. And like, that was kind of, they were like, we're together because until we can get out of a situation safe, then we'll stick together, but then we're going to bounce. And then when the Bob Void thing happened, that's when everyone's like, okay, maybe we should stick around.
I think not to cut you off, I think the one thing that they could have done differently as far as those characters are concerned was to flesh out Ghost a little bit more. That was my second quibble. I only had two notes, if you will. And I think they fleshed out literally everybody but Ghost. Like, you have a backstory for every character. You know what's been going on with Red Guardian, because Red Guardian's just been around. But you get a sense of what's going on with Yelena, because she's kind of upfront and she tells you. You understand what's going on with US Agent. You know what's going on literally with everybody except for Ghost. And I thought that was a wasted opportunity. Like, all right, how long has it been since Ant-Man 2? And we haven't seen her since? Like, there's an opportunity there to fill in the blank for what she's been up to. And I feel like they kind of left that sort of sagging. She was just kind of like, an additional person as opposed to like a team member. Because you weren't invested. I didn't give a crap about her, to be honest. And I like the actress and I like the character. So there was an opportunity there for them to do something, and they kind of just were like, she's there.
Yeah,
it's
basically. Cool. Cam, you saying?
I kind of talk it in my head, and I think I answered my own question, but I was wondering why Valentina, when she ordered Sentry to basically destroy the Thunderbolts, why didn't Sentry do it? Because I was like, damn, he's holding back because this dude can literally just rip everybody in half. But then he said at the end, he was like, they're not a threat to me, and that's why I didn't kill him. But I just thought he was under some type of mind control or whatever, that his intention was to just kill them, frame them, and she can move on with her plan. And when that backfired, I was like thinking, like, why in the hell did he just like bust him up? You know what I'm saying? But he did. Like, I was thinking about it. And he was like, well, they're not a threat, and so I don't really have to kill them.
Yeah. And then also too, they're kind of his friends, if you want to put it that way. Like some people, like folks that he actually was rocking with. So that was kind of cool. I thought that the way they got Bucky into it, like that's the one thing I would say overall, like with all the pieces they had and how they got everyone to converge in a way that was Marvel logic, but it made sense, was like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus, she was having a fun time this whole time. She's like, yo, this is a fat check. I get to just wild out, be a villain. This is fun. That like she was just there doing one-liners and enjoying her life.
Can I ask one question real quick? As far as Bucky, what, like, as a senator, what was he doing? Like, it felt like he wasn't doing his job. It sounded like he should have been fired. Did he get fired in the movie? Like,
no, I don't think so.
No, he's a senator. You don't get fired.
Like, he wasn't like doing any senator like stuff. He wasn't reading anything. Because my impression from Captain America and the new Brave New World or whatever it's called, he seemed to be going full head senator mode, and there was no backstory to that. And so my impression of him, he was like really trying to be a senator and change within. We've heard that before in real life. But he didn't look like he learned anything. He didn't look like he played the game within the game. And he was like, I'm just back to Winter Soldier right now. So I was very curious. And then there was like a little point of contention between him and Bucky off camera that was said by Bucky. He's like, then you talk to Captain America? And he was like, well, it didn't go well. I was like, what do you mean? What didn't go well? What are you talking about? I have no idea what that conversation was about. So again, there's backstory that's left for us to interpret in a later movie, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, they could have done a little bit better about threading those needles. Like we could have easily saw a conversation with him and Captain America, right? It'd been him and Mackie talking about shit. Like that would have been a 2-minute scene, one line of dialogue, as D'Angelo always puts it. But it would have just added to the context of things. And same thing with Ghost, right? We got a little bit of a flashback for every character except for her. So we had a flashback. We flashback of everyone and everyone else. So I saw that like there was a lot more where like for Ghost, it was more told than showed. And so it was just like, remember, experimented on as a child. Like she just kept repeating that same line as opposed to us seeing that. Like even if we saw it for like 30 seconds, it would have helped sell that more. And then I think for and then Florence Pugh, or I should say Yelena being the leader, quote unquote, was even funnier because you could tell that she's not really a leader, but it was like kind of thrust upon her and it kind of worked ish. I think that the one thing I would say, on another positive live was like the chemistry of all the actors actually worked out pretty well. And I think that part helped. That helped sell the movie more, where it's like, it was fun watching all of them quibble and figure out how to do things and jump from one situation to another. Or even in the quiet moments, there was actually pretty good. So like, I give them props for on the casting front where it worked out really well.
Shout out to nepotism, Bill Pullman's son and Kurt Russell's son in the movie, which I did not know that they were the sons of famous actors. And now when I look at them, I can't unsee it now. So shout out to nepotism.
To be fair, Wyatt Russell's a halfway decent actor. I don't know enough about Pullman's son to really make a comment. This is the first thing that I can recall seeing him in. But Wyatt Russell's halfway decent.
He was in Top Gun, and his character's name was Bob.
Yo, that's right.
That's Bob. Okay.
I forgot about that.
Okay. Yep. I did forget about that as well.
That's right. Him. Okay. It was Jay Ellis. And then also, yep. Totally forgot about that.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, okay. I mean,
I stand
So
corrected.
I would say to wrap this, again, it goes back to the title of this episode is like Thunderbolts. It's a little bit more than I would say plus.
I was gonna say it's better than like I said, it was bordering on very good. There are a couple of things that could have pushed it into like a low very good instead of a good high.
It's just it's
high good.
We go back to the Marvel, right? It's Marvel logic and Marvel good, where it's like, is this worse than Black Widow or Ant-Man 3? No, absolutely not. Is it better than Captain America? Yes. Is it better than any of the Spider-Mans? No. Is it any better than any of the Guardian Galaxy? No. So it's nice in that realm of like, okay to pretty good Marvel stuff. Now, saying all of this, that's a D'Angelo F. Just want to let everybody know that. Just want to make sure that we level set. Okay, everyone knows what we're talking about when we say Marvel good. This is not mean it's good. Right, it just means in the realm of Marvel, this is what it is. But it's a D'Angelo F. I just want to let everybody know that. Be very honest.
All right, so if we had to rate it from a scale of 1 to 10, where would we all put it?
I do a 7.
Yeah, I'm cool with a 7. Which is a D'Angelo, which is a D'Angelo 5.
6.5 to 7. Like I said, it's not the story we needed. Yeah, it's not the story we needed, but if you watch it, you won't be disappointed. And on the spectrum of above the bad Marvel movies, this is above a bad Marvel movie. It's not a bad one.
It's definitely above bad. It's I think I'm comfortable saying it's a fair amount above bad. And close to very good.
Personally, I would need to re-rank my Marvel top 5 movies because I've been so far removed from watching them. Everything just seems bad right now. So I have to do myself a solid and personally go on this journey of ranking just the top 5. I won't even go any further than that and say these are my top 5.
But I'm comfortable speaking for D'Angelo here. Our 7 is probably his 4 or 5. Which is definitely a hard F for on the D'Angelo scale. That's an
pretty much. All right, that's a wrap. I think the next one coming up is Fantastic Four, which is July, correct? Something like that.
I believe that's like July. Yes,
which will be quite interesting.
Any predictions on how that movie will end based on the end credit scene in Thunderbolts?
Yes. Which will probably be more spoilers. I think if nothing else, I would say this. The end credit scene for Thunderbolts set up what's going to happen in Fantastic Four pretty well. Because that was a thread that I was wondering how they were going to do it. Either Fantastic Four is set in the 80s, 90s? 60s, okay.
60s,
80s, something like that.
70s,
so I was curious how they were going to thread that needle to get them back into current time. And so you'll see in Thunderbolts, there's an interesting spot, but it was one where I was like, oh, okay, that works. And it got back to that mode of like, oh, an end credit scene that actually is, they had one credit scene that was stupid and then one that was like, oh, this actually kind of works.
It wasn't stupid. It was funny.
But stupid funny.
The mid-credit scene was it was humorous, stupid, not stupid.
But pointless. So I think if nothing else, again, we're in a role. Marvel fatigue is real. It's 100%. We're at 20 years now. Jesus Christ, it's crazy.
But I think so. Fatigue is different from they've been making subpar films.
That adds.
I think that's a distinction worth making. I personally don't buy into the fatigue. I think there's good movies and there's bad movies. If they were still making good movies, fatigue wouldn't even be a conversation.
That's a good point. I can see that.
That's my personal.
They're making
thought.
Good ones, but yeah.
If they were on their track record like they were previously, we wouldn't even be talking about fatigue. We'd be like, this is the craziest run in all of movie history.
But now their run is about 10 to 12 years roughly.
I disagree, but that is a debate for another day that we do not have time for.
Yes. Real talk. Well, with that being said, thank you everybody for listening. This is Blerdlines. Oh, before I even say anything, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. The YouTubes, the Spotifys, Amazons, Google, Spotify. Shit, anything else I forget? I don't remember. Yeah, all those things. Like, subscribes. Yeah, all that. Spotify, I said that one too. Like and subscribe to all the things. We around here. But other than that, this is Blerdlines. We out. Peace.